There are essentially 5 ways that an insurance company can cancel you or remove you from their system and say, adios, goodbye, and good luck. We're going to go over those 5 ways that insurances can cancel the customers and explain what they do and why they're doing it these ways. If you guys are looking for better insurance quotes, go ahead and check out the link below. There is a link that connects you with agents that actually work in your area. They run multiple quotes with multiple companies. Check it out below if you are interested in shopping for new insurance. So before we dive into the 5 pieces, there's a couple side laws that you have to know that insurances can't just flat out cancel you. You can't be 6 months into a 12-month policy and they say, no thanks, we're done, we'll just let you go. They have to be on a renewal. So when you purchase a policy, that's one of the reasons a lot of agents say, buy the 12-month policy, not the 6 months. There's 2 parts to that. The first part is the companies want you to buy 6 months for 2 reasons. They want you to buy the 6-month policy because, one, if they do raise the rates, you don't feel the impact. If it goes up $20 in the next 6 months, whatever. A couple years go by and you realize you're paying $100 more, and now you've started to realize that maybe you should shop for different insurance because the rate's gotten too high. But if you go a 12-month policy and the rate has increased twice since you've had it, not likely, but let's say it did, or it had a larger increase, now you're likely going to just jump ship. It went up $80, $100, $40, whatever the case was. It gets your attention a lot more than if it goes up incrementally. We don't pay as much attention to our insurance because we're kind of a set it and forget it mentality in most states. The second piece is for claims. Sometimes there's people they don't want, and if you're a risk that they don't want to carry, but you sneak right under that bar, they want to have that 6-month term to where they can cancel your policy. Now, the other piece to this is that there's a leeway that you have. The insurance companies at minimum have to notify you 10 days in advance. Most to almost every state require 30 days in advance. That's one of the reasons almost every single company is going to mail your renewal paperwork 3 weeks ahead of time. They're essentially letting you know if there's any changes to the policy. That way it gives you time to react and figure it out. Or if the person doesn't care, it's just going to move on and keep continuing. If it's a scenario where they're going to cancel you, let's find out the reasons why and how an insurance company can actually cancel your insurance policy. The first piece is pretty obvious. It's technically the video I made on fraud. I'll link it here, but it's lying to your insurance company. If you lie about how many miles you drive, about how long you've owned your car, about your driving history, if you haven't had 10 years but you've only had 2 of driving history, and it's a company that cares. So some of these companies ignore most of this, and that's one of the reasons everybody says, oh, just tell them you drive low mileage. Oh, just tell them you're licensed at 16. Oh, just because, in all honesty, I would say 70% of the companies don't dive in. They don't check it. They don't care as much as you would think they do. But they do on the back end. They actually have algorithms that check this and have norms. Just know that these companies are watching what's happening and they are getting a little bit tighter as the economy changes. If the inflation goes up, if money gets tight, a lot of fraud happens when people need money. So they know that a lot of times insurance is going to be the part that a lot of fraud is going to happen. So they're going to regulate that and check that. It is getting tighter in my personal insurance agency. I've seen a lot of insurance companies fight more about how many miles is a customer driving. All of these things that they're caring about is price focused. Now, don't get me wrong, they're not going to show up at your door and ask you to see your car and inspect it. Usually they just have you sign a piece of paper outside of your insurance policy, make it a little extra of a hurdle that forces you to pay attention. If you don't pay attention, then the price just goes up. You usually can fix it later, but it's something that's just more of a hassle for the customer. The second part is getting tickets. It's not just the tickets, and there's kind of a confusion between points and tickets. A lot of people think that I took a driving test and I don't have any points, so the ticket's gone. It doesn't go away. The ticket is still on file with the police department, which is the only file that the insurance company cares about. They don't care about how many points you have. Obviously, if you get, 9 points or more, you lose your license in most cases. And in that case, you can't have insurance because you have to have a valid license, or you have to have somebody else be listed as the primary driver. So in these cases where you have too many tickets, usually it's 5 or more, an insurance company will non-renew you or cancel your policy. Once again, they can't cancel it in the middle of a policy. So if you're in month 1 out of a 6-month policy, you still have 5 months to kind of plan ahead and they don't necessarily always check it. So here's the thing. A lot of people don't realize that insurance companies don't just watch you. That's not their focus. They do a little bit in some states, in some areas, but what they do is they pull reports. And when they've had a lot of fraud or a lot of claims, or they've noticed a lot of ticket activity in a certain state, a certain zip code, a certain area or territory, what they do is on renewal, they'll pull the driving history because they'll rerun it. They'll see if your insurance score changed, which if you want to learn more about insurance scores, I'll link a video here. They'll know if you've had more tickets. If you've had at least a ticket or more in the last 6 months, they're going to give you a rate increase. But also, if you've had too many tickets, they're going to kick you out of their system. It's kind of a 5 and done. Some companies have a 3 strikes and you're out policy, but in most cases, you can defend those. And a lot of times, they'll let you explain it out of letting them keep you as an insured. That actually leads into the third way that insurance companies can cancel your insurance policy is claims. Claims are kind of tied to some tickets. A lot of times if you have at-fault accident, you'll get a failure to yield. Well, it doesn't count twice on your record. So if you have a ticket and an accident, for insurance, they usually just take the worst of the two. That way you're not getting 2 hits into one claim. In this scenario, if you've had multiple tickets and accidents, those are still counting for those 5 that they don't want you to have. Some companies do give more leeway and they don't really care how many you have, but they're just going to incrementally rate increase for that risk. So if you had 7, 2 at-fault accidents, a couple things here, a couple things there, you're going to pay an astronomical amount if you can find a company that's going to allow you to get insurance through them. The fourth way is drunk driving. Now, same thing. They can't just cancel you right away. The only way an insurance company can completely cancel your policy in the middle of a policy is in the first 60 days. Most companies have a 60-day underwriting period. So if there was something that you lied to them about, or you had an illegal, some sort of activity that they weren't aware of, or your record didn't run. Sometimes it has a no hit where it doesn't connect to your history. And if it does connect later on, 20 days later, 30 days later, it can deny you and flat cancel that policy back to the day it started. And the same goes for DUIs, drunk driving. If you've had a drunk driving, not a lot of companies will drop you just for the first incident. Now, if it's an injury, an accident, and a DUI, almost every company will drop you on the renewal. That's just a risk that they'll never recover from. If they pay $20,000 for a claim, $50,000 for medical, and you've got a ticket that gives you a higher risk, they've now put $70,000 out there or more for something they're charging a couple thousand a year. It's going to take them decades to recoup that income. And I know a lot of people think insurances are scams, but that's where they lose out, and that's where you win. Not necessarily happen in a drunk driving, but in the scenario where you do have a major claim. That's the main focus of having a nice insurance policy is if you do have something happen and you're not negligent, it just happens, you made a mistake, something major goes through, you're covered in those scenarios as long as you have the right coverage. The fifth way is non-pay. You don't make the payment. It's pretty cut and dry. Now, asterisk here, if you actually miss your first payment with a lot of companies, they'll flat out cancel you, period. They have the right in that 60-day underwriting period where if you don't meet their guidelines, one of a lot of companies' rules is miss the first payment, you're out. Can you fight it and get it back and reinstate it? I gave you the wrong account number, or I did this, it was a mistake. Sometimes. It's a 50-50 shot. If you know the agent and they're good, I've honestly gotten all of them overturned in the past. It's probably only about 5 or 6 of them, but I've seen more agents than not get them overturned to where the company said, nope, you can rewrite it, but they now have a 3-day lapse, and we're going to surcharge for that. If you're lucky enough where they didn't cancel their old policy, now you can still keep rewriting it. Hopefully the price stays the same. It's just more work for the agent. Let me know what your thoughts are. Have you had an insurance company give you a cancellation notice and then a denial notice in the past? What were your thoughts? What was your next steps? Could you fix it, or did you just have to switch to another company? Love to hear your advice and your comments below. Otherwise, if you haven't checked out the more popular options, we have Insurance 101 for auto and then Insurance 101 for home. Go over the coverages that you may want to learn about. If you are shopping, like I said, the link is in the description below. Otherwise, I have several videos on this channel that do go over how to shop for car insurance and some of the companies that have had some different rate increases. I'm Mark with Think Insurance. I'll see you in the next one.